Hey guys, and welcome back to how to create a Spigot plugin for 1.15. This is episode 6 in the series, and this is listeners part 2. In this episode, we're creating this right here, this trident, this special item. It's gonna have a special name, an ancient trident, and as you can see, whenever I right click on it, it's gonna spawn some minions. Whenever I left click, it's gonna shoot some explosives, and I'll show you right now what it's going to do. So whenever I left click, it's going to shoot these fireballs, and then you can see it actually does damage. And whenever I right click, whenever I throw this thing, it'll spawn some of these zombies. And I chose water zombies because it is a trident. And you can do this as many times as you want. Just throw it, and you can see the trident come right back to me. And I'll do some zombies. If I do show you guys real quick, get another trident. And I throw this trident, it won't spawn any zombies. Now, that's to do with a few listeners, and we'll go over it right now. Alright, it's a lot of fun to use. Alright, let's do it. In the last episode, it did take a little bit to go over everything. It took about a 35-minute episode, and that's because there's a lot of pre-work you have to do before we get into the listeners. I do have every single episode coded and inside a GitHub for you guys. The links are in the description below. So I went ahead and just started this project before. I went ahead and went to the Package Explorer. I created a new project named Star Tool. I created a new package and a main class. In this main class, you can kind of just copy the information. Create this Star Tool. You can copy the information from the last episode, actually. It's the same exact stuff, the same on command. It's the little when I type in, I think it's boost actually. Type in boost, it says the gods are giving you a gift, and I get the Star Tool thing. It's the same exact code from last episode, and then the get item is similar to the last episode. I just changed the name and changed the lore. If you want to pause the video, copy it down real quick, you're free to, or you can just go to the description below and copy this code right here. And then you can go ahead and follow along for the listeners. That's the main point of this video, is the listeners. So let's get right into it. The first thing you want to need to do is implement listener. This is the first thing you're always going to want to do when creating a listener. Go ahead and type in implement listener, and then the on enable, go ahead and type in this get server, get plugin manager, dot register events, this. This is going to register all the events inside your main class. So if I had an event down here, it's going to register it. And I'll show you guys right now. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down a little bit so you guys can see in the middle of the screen. I'm going to type in @event handler. I'm going to import event handler. Right, like that. And type in public void, and this event will do the fireball event. It's the clicking event. So on click, and this is player interact event. I'm gonna import everything. There you go. And you're probably wondering, I don't know any of these events on the top of my head. I know a few of them on top of my head. I Google search most of them. There is a link I will put in the description below for every single event in Spigot. And for this episode, we'll be using 2 events. We're using this player interact event, and we're also using the projectile hit event. But for this method, go ahead and we're going to type in a few things here. First thing we want to check is to see if they're using our custom item. Now, I went over this last episode, similar part of it, to check and make sure. We're checking to make sure if they have a name, and then we're checking to make sure if they have a lore. And to do this, we're going to say event dot get player dot get inventory, and we're saying dot get item in main hand. Now, this is another error you're going to get with the backwards compatibility thing. 1.9 introduced main hand and offhand. So if you're coding a plugin in 1.8, it is not in main hand, it's .get item in hand. So this is a 1.8 thing. You see, if I put it in here, it'll be like just it'll be deprecated. So if you're using 1.9 and above, do .get item in main hand. Next, we're actually do something different. We're gonna do type. So we're gonna do .get type equals material trident. There it is, trident. So we're seeing if the item in their hand, we're getting the type of the item in their hand, and the type is just the block ID. And we're seeing if it equals to the material.trident. So we're trying to see if their item in their hand is a trident. Next, I'm not going to put any curly braces, but I am going to put an if statement right after it. And say if the event.get player .get inventory .get item in main hand .get item meta .has lore. All right. Now that we know has lore, we can go ahead and put curly brace, and now we can send that player and do whatever they want to do. So we're going to do the right click first. And to do so, we will need a player. So to make it a little easier, I'm going to create a player. Player equals the cast of a player to the event get player. That way I don't have to type event.get player. I just type player. So for the right event, you type in if event.get action equals action dot, and you'll see all the different actions there is in Minecraft. There's a bunch of cool things you can do with these actions. We are going to do the right click one, and we're going to do right click air. If you want to do both, you can do the or symbol and type in event action right click block as well. But we're just going to do air for this plugin. Type in that. And then for left click, you're going to do something similar. Of course, if the event.get action equals action dot left click air. And the left click, so we'll do the left click first. The left click is for spawning that fireball. This fireball. And the fireball will do damage. So let's do that. So to spawn the fireball, you're going to do player. And there's a few ways to do this. This is the easiest way, of course. Player.launch projectile. Now, this projectile is a little different. It's going to be fireball.class. You're going to have to import fireball.class. And there you go. And you're done. I will leave all the different projectiles in the description below. And they're all class files. So fireball.class, there's arrow.class, pretty sure. Yep, arrow.class, and there's a bunch of them. We'll be using the fireball class 1, and that's all we want to do for left click. For right click, it's going to be a little more complicated, and that is because a trident, whenever you, right click, whenever you right click on a trident, you're not really doing much. You want to really focus on the throwing thing, the whole throwing aspect of the trident. And so what we want to do in the right click is add the player to the a list. And I'll explain why we're doing this in a little bit. But for right now, go all the way to the top and type in public list. And the list will be, we'll do string, a string list. And we'll call it list as well. New array list string. All right. So So we're going to create this list here. And the list is going to be a list of strings. Once you create this list at the top, and it's not in any method, it's going to be a public, it's going to be its own thing. Once you create that list, scroll back down to our event, and inside this right click, we're going to say if the list does not contain player.getName, then we want to add them to that list. List.add player.getName. And then we want to return. All right. And then we want to also say outside of this has lore, we want to kick them out of the list. So we want to say if the list.contains event.getPlayer.getName list.remove event.getPlayer.getName. Oh. All right, so why am I doing this? Now that we have this all typed up, I can explain why am I doing this. We want to separate our trident from other tridents. Like I showed you in the game. Oh my God, I died. Like I showed you in the game. When I throw this trident, I'm spawning zombies. But when I'm throwing this unenchanted, uncustomized trident, I'm not spawning zombies. So we want to differ the tridents. And to do this, we're going to create a list. So whenever someone right clicks on this trident, they're added to the list. And this list is a cool list. It is the Minecraft God list. And is a list that will allow you to spawn zombies. And let's get right into the spawning zombies part. So the spawning zombie part is going to be another listener, another event method. This will be the @event handler. Public. Void on, we'll call it on land. This is the projectile hit event. And in here, we want to see what entity type it is. Go ahead and import that, sorry. And there's a lot of projectiles. There's arrows, there's spectric arrows, there's fireballs, there's a bunch of different things. But we want to see the trident. So a trident, when it's flying through the air, it's no longer an item stack. It's no longer an item. It is now classified as an entity or a projectile. So we're to say if the event.getEntity type equals entity type dot trident. So if the entity is a trident, if that projectile hit event, when that projectile hits the ground, hits a mob, hits something, if it is a trident, we want to go through and we want to check if the event dot get entity dot get the shooter. We'll get the shooter. And the reason being is these little bastards down here. So I can get one. Sometimes they're holding tridents. So we want to see if the shooter is a player. So get shooter is instance of a player. So if the entity shooter, which would be me, is a player, we can go ahead and create the player. So player equals player to cast, and then the player dot get entity. Now that we created the player, we can go ahead and see if they are in the list to see if they are a Minecraft god. So if list dot contains player dot get name, we want to spawn zombies. And to spawn these zombies, we create a location. And that location is where the trident hit. So we'll do event dot get entity dot get location. There's one more thing we want to do, that location. We want to set the y to location dot get y plus 1. And the reason why we're doing this is because that projectile, when you throw a trident, it's not hitting the block above it. It's going to hit that block right down there. It's hitting this block. And we don't want to spawn zombies inside a block because they'll be stuck there. We want to spawn them one block above. Oh God. Sorry, the boots from last episode are messing me up. All right. So we want to spawn them one block above the grass, for example. So after you do that, we can do loc.getWorld.spawn entity. We want to spawn entity, and you see right here the parameters, location, entity type. We want to spawn at the lock, our location, and our entity type. You see all the different entities you can do. Our entity is the drowned zombies. Awesome. And we're done right there. You can go ahead, go back to your project, click on the SRC, right click on it, go to new file, and we'll create our plugin.yml. It's to be main me.codedred star tool. This is just my package name, and I'm dotting it with our main class. I'm making the name of our project. It doesn't really matter. Like star tool. The version will be 0.0.0.0.1, and the author is going to be me, coded red. The commands, our command is, what is it again? Star tool. And I forgot to go over it last episode. The API version is 1.13. There's a few parameters for the API version. There's 1.13, there's 1.14, and I'm pretty sure there's 1.15 now. When in doubt, just go 1.13. There's not many block changes. If you're dealing with 1.15 blocks, then put the API version as 1.15. If you're dealing with enchantments for 1.14, go ahead and put API version at 1.14. But if you're dealing with just normal blocks, the trident, you'll be good with a 1.13 API version. All right. And yeah, we are done now. We go ahead and export this. Export this as star tool. I'm going to reload my server, grab my tool again, and test it out. All right. So when I grab my tool and I throw it, oh, we got an error. Let's see what's going on. Cannot be casted to that. Oh, okay. Here's our mistake. Player, get the entity. We need to get shooter. My bad. We want to make sure the shooter is the player, not the trident. All right, go ahead and update it. Update it. Reload the server. And let's do it again. Throw the trident. And you see it spawned one zombie. Earlier it was spawning 3 zombies. That's because I used a for loop to spawn multiple. And I'll show you guys that real quick. Go ahead and copy this. Like I said, we create a for loop. So for int I equals 1, semicolon, I less than 4, semicolon, I plus plus. And we're going to paste that back in there. And right after this, we're going to say loc.set x to get x plus I. And what this basically does is it's going to spawn 3 zombies. To spawn 3 zombies, we're starting at 1, and we're not going to, we're going to 4, I guess, but we're not doing 4. So spawn 3 zombies, and then each time it spawns 1 zombie, it's going to move another zombie to the x plus 1. So it's just going to move them over a little bit. We can export this to test it out. Reload the server. And throw the trident. And you'll see it spawned 3 zombies, and all 3 were like displayed by 1x, I guess. They all moved over 1 position. If you didn't put this line in here, then every single zombie would just spawn right on top of each other. A little awkward. But yeah, this is it. Before I end the episode, I do want to show you guys one more thing with listeners, and that is how to put listeners in another class. Just like Command Executor, it's very similar. We're going to right click on the package, go to New Class, and we're going to call this class the Star Events. It's just a custom name. You can name it whatever you like. In the Star Events class, I'm going to implement listener, and I'm going to import my listener. We need the listener just because we have the event handler. Just like the main class, we're going to put listener in here. The next thing you're going to want to make is a constructor. Now you don't usually do this for a command executor. Of course, you do it if you want to use config files, and we will go config files. We will explain config files later. I want to get all the basics done, and then we'll go into customizing things. But to create a constructor, there's a few ways you can do it. I'm going to do static main plugin, and then I'm going to say public star events main instance. And I'm going to set plugin equal to instance. Now what I'm doing here is I'm creating an instance of main. I'm going to make a plugin. But in the constructor, when I'm calling this constructor from the main class, I'm sending the main instance, and I'm sending that plugin equal to it. So now anywhere in this plugin, real quick, anywhere in this plugin, anywhere in this class, if I call plugin dot, I can use anything from the main class. I can do plugin list dot add. I can add something to the list. I can add something to the list that's in the main class. This plugin is just referencing the main class. So once you have the constructor made, we can go back into our main class and go ahead and just copy our events that we created. So I'm going to copy both the events. I'm going to remove them from the main class. I'm going to go back into this, paste it in there. I'm also going to go and copy the list. Remove the list from the main class. Go into here. Paste the list. And this class should be all done. There's one more thing you need to do. And if you press Control-Shift-O to remove all the imports that you're not using, you can remove them all by going over and deleting them, or you can press Control-Shift-O and remove them automatically. And now to make that class work, you're going to get rid of this. You're going to type in new, the class name, which is star events, this. So I'm typing new star events this. And real quick, I'm going to get rid of that this. I'm going to get rid of this constructor. And I'm going to show you guys that you actually don't need a constructor. Just like the command executor, you don't need a constructor. I just went ahead and put a constructor in here because I wanted to show you guys how to reference main items. So if I go ahead and put this back in there real quick. And then, for example, take this list. You guys don't need to type this. You can just follow along real quick. if I take the list out of this class, I put it back in the main class. Now, in this class, if I want to talk about this list, I need to type plugin dot. Ooh, not public. So plugin dot list. Plugin dot list. Plugin dot list. Plugin dot list. And one more. And now you see I got no error messages, and I can remove that. And now my plugin will work perfectly fine. I'm going to export it. Reload the server. Hop back in game. I want to remove everything from inventory, and I'll do it again. And it's star. Oh, sorry, I can't see. Star tool. I got the star tool. Throw it at someone, and you get the star tool back, and you get this spawning of the zombies. And you left click, you spawn the fireball. Thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry if I go a little fast. If I am going fast, go ahead and just comment in the description below, and I'll move a little slower next time. In the next episode, we will be going over GUIs finally. I know everyone loves GUIs. Personally, my favorite episode is going to be episode 8, and so it is going to be difficult, but we will be going over spinning GUIs in episode 8. But in episode 7, we'll be going over this change theme. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.